Line. Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who bring the best to you each morning. The widest choice of cereals in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now the co-producer of a new play opening in New Haven tomorrow night, Sweet Love Remembered, starring Margaret Sullivan. And that is not a plug, it is just identification for Martin Gable.
Having at last gotten identification, I'd like to introduce a woman who needs no identification, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, Martin. And I would like to introduce our Random House publisher, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
The format of this show calls for a live panel moderator, and we have a very live one just back from Paris with the most interesting collection of modern art, Mr. John Charles Davis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. It's good to be back home again and good to look at the prospect of giving the panel a rough time of it, particularly after Bennett's remark. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger after this. And now let's meet our first contestant. Will you come in and sign in, please? Gerald? Behn, right, sir?
Right.
Mr. Behn, where are you from?
Virginia, John.
Virginia? Oh,
Right.
Fine. It's nice to have somebody from Virginia with us in this period just around the beginning of the year. Mr. Behn, may I present the panel? Hello, Mr. Behn. Will you join me over here, Mr. Behn? Do you know how we keep score?
Yes, sir.
All right. In that event, we'll let the folks in the audience here in the theater and those who are looking in at home know exactly what your line is. Panel. We can tell you that Mr. Behn is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mr. Behn, is there a product involved in what you do?
No, sir.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
No, ma'am.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Gable.
Do you do your work in Virginia?
No, sir.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Doing fine.
We're surrounding him anyway.
Mr. Behn, would you be described as an executive?
This is a very broad term, Miss Dorothy. We would have to agree that in his particular area he does exercise executive responsibility. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Would you like me to withdraw the question?
No, that's fine. If that misleads you enough, if that doesn't mislead you.
Mr. Behn, do you work indoors at all?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work for any branch of any government?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a government that exists in the United States?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it the federal government?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever work in Washington?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say that you worked indoors more than outdoors?
It's about 50-50.
I guess that gives you a no, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. It gives me a 50-50 yes, too.
The point is well made, Miss Kilgallen. Proceed.
Ask him a question.
Do you, all right, I'll ask something that's sure to get me a no. Do you ever wear any sort of uniform or other costume than a business suit that would be identifiable if you were wearing it now?
No, ma'am.
That's 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Behn, did you have anything whatever to do with the recent trip of President Eisenhower abroad?
Yes, sir.
Did you go along on this trip?
Yes, sir.
Were you connected with the presidential party?
Yes, sir.
Did you have anything to do with Mr. Haggerty?
I would say no, sir.
No, I think not, because the question is asked
I
in
meant
terms...
was yes. Was it something to do with press relations?
Ah, fine,
No.
Bennett. Now
No,
that you've
sir.
explained that, we'll
Thank
give you the
you very
ball.
much.
That's 5 to go, Miss President.
Would you be considered a bodyguard in any way, Mr. Behn?
Yes,
A
ma'am.
protection officer for the president?
Yes, ma'am.
A Secret Service man, yes.
That's right.
That's right. But Jerry said, well, I'm glad you did. Miss President didn't say the FBI.
No. Secret Service, I hesitated a moment, but the panel helped me out on that.
Actually, let me clarify things. Mr. Behn is Assistant Chief of the White House Special Detail, and he not only accompanied the President on his journey, but he went with Jim Haggerty, the White House Press Secretary, on the pre-trip, during which all the arrangements for security, etc., were made. And this is, I didn't have a chance to ask you any questions while we were over there. Did you, in your pre-trip with Jim Haggerty, have any idea that you would have the reception in New Delhi, in India,
No,
that
no.
you received?
Not like it was, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Had you taken special precautions in anticipation that it would be a big and excited crowd?
We always do that, but this was more than we'd anticipated.
Was there ever a moment of danger, Mr. Behn?
I don't believe so. They were friendly people, thank goodness.
Yes, indeed.
Well, now, you have been on the White House Secret Service detail since my old days in Washington with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Have you ever seen a reception for an American president to compare
Never,
with the New Delhi and others there, too, actually?
No, never. I never have.
I
They
must say...
want more now, John.
That's true. There are a lot more people. And, of course, President Roosevelt didn't go out into these areas where
That's
these
right.
vast millions turn out just because it's something big and exciting in their lives. And I must say I felt sorry for Jim Rowley, who's an old friend of mine, as Jerry knows. We get into places like, for instance, Casablanca on the way home, and we ride this 16 miles from the airport into Casablanca proper. And about every 2 miles, we run into these Berbo horsemen with these big muscle-loading muskets, you know, and their idea of fun is to fire these things and ride beside the president's car. It sounds like a 5-inch naval gun going on. You expect the gun to blow apart, the horse to blow apart, and the Berber to blow apart,
That's right.
too. Well, I must say for the Secret Service, and I don't want to gild the lily, but you did a wonderful job under
Thank
the
you,
most
John.
trying circumstances, and I'm sure you and Jim are very proud of your detail, and you should be.
Thank you.
And thanks very much for coming to What's My Line. We can go
Thank you very much.
The Secret Service, by the way, is a branch of the Treasury Department, because we didn't get up to that, did we? Well, now let's see what we can...
One of these men is responsible for guarding the life of the President of the United States. What is your name, please?
My name is Gerald Behn.
My name is Gerald Behn.
My name is Gerald Behn.
Only one of these men is the real Gerald Behn. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Dina Merrill, Johnny Carson, and Peggy Cass, on to tell the truth. And here sitting in for Bud Collier is the star of Play Your Hunch, Merv Griffin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and a good evening to all of you. To Tell the Truth is brought to you this week by Anacin, the headache remedy with a special combination of ingredients to relieve pain, fight depression, calm jittery nerves. Anacin. Well, proud to be here again with all of you this week, panel. You know, it's interesting, last year when I replaced Bud Collier, burglars broke into his home, and in case they're watching, you only have a week left. Now, panel, please open your envelopes, take out your affidavit cards for the first time, and follow along as I read. I, Gerald Behn, am special agent in charge of the Secret Service detail at the White House. As such, I have the responsibility of guarding the President of the United States at all times, wherever he may be, either in this country or abroad. I've been assigned to the White House for more than 20 years, serving Presidents Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, and now President Kennedy. I became head of the detail in 1961. So far, I have traveled some 800,000 miles with the Presidentia in the performance of my duty. Signed, Gerald Behn. Panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be Gerald Behn. We'll start the questioning with Tom Poston.
Oh, thank you, Murr. May I ask Mr. Behn, number 3, what the main street is in Palm Beach?
Worth Avenue.
Thank you. Number 2, what kind of golf does President Kennedy shoot?
Very good.
Would you know roughly the score? What does he shoot?
I think he'd rather not have me tell, but it's very good.
That's very Secret Service. I didn't ask if he cheated. I just... Number 1, what does dot, dot, dash, dot mean in Morse code? Do you know that letter?
No, sir, I don't.
Just by chance, I wondered if you might. Can you tell me, number 1, what is our president's summer home?
Hyannisport.
Thank you. Number 3, how far would you say that is from the water?
It's on the water.
Thank you.
Dina Merrill?
Number 3, did you say that the president's house in Hyannisport was on the water?
Well, close to the water. Put it that way.
Well, do you mean close to or on?
Close to.
Close to. I see.
When the tide comes in, it's on.
Number 2, which wing of the White House is the president's office in?
The East.
Number 3, you were there under President Eisenhower? You guarded President Eisenhower?
Yes.
Oh, I'm doing that again. Number 3, you were there with President Eisenhower?
Yes, ma'am.
What were the name of his military aides?
Aides?
Yes. Do you remember?
Which one? There's
Well,
3
there was an
military aides.
Army
You want all
and a
3?
Navy. What was the naval one?
The naval one was Captain Oran, I believe.
I do.
Johnny Carson?
Number 3, who just resigned as the head of the Secret Service?
Huey Baughman.
Excuse me?
Huey Baughman.
Baughman. Number 2, can you tell me President Truman's favorite drink?
Ranch water and bourbon.
Yeah. Number 1, who lives next to Mr. Kennedy in Hyannisport? Who's his next door neighbor?
The Secret Service.
Well, besides the Secret Service. Number 2, who lives next to the President in Hyannisport?
Well, there are a lot of things that we'd rather not talk about, and that's another one.
Thank you, Cass.
Number 3, what was the summer home of President Roosevelt?
Hyde Park.
Number 2,
He was there, and he also stopped at Newport and other places.
number 1,
Newport.
number 3, what was the name of Mrs. Eisenhower's secretary?
I believe it was Mary Jane McCaffrey.
Number 2, was the Secret Service protecting President Lincoln? I mean, was it in there?
Secret Service was organized after the assassination of President Lincoln.
It was organized after the assassination.
There's the bell that ends round 1. So, panel, it's time now to vote. Without consultation, no consultation there, as there is a Secret Service man in the House, mark your ballots and select number 1, number 2, or number 3. The team of challengers will get $250 for every incorrect vote. Are all ballots marked?
Not yet, but I'm marking. I wouldn't cheat you for the world.
Well, you're first, Tom. Is that it?
That's it. Oh, what did I write, a 3? I'm sorry. That's what I want. I didn't like the answer too much about the summer home, but I thought that was the only time he faltered. and the other ones faltered a little bit on other questions, so I voted for number 3.
Dina, what's your vote?
I voted for number 2, Merv. I didn't like number 3's answer about the summer home being on the water, also about the naval aid. That wasn't the one I knew. And number 1 hedged on a few things, so I voted on 2.
Johnny?
I voted for number 2. He knew that President Truman's favorite drink is branch water and bourbon. And President Kennedy's favorite drink is milk lately. So,
Peggy?
Well, I voted for number 3 because I think that was the name of Mrs. Eisenhower's secretary. But I always thought the Roosevelts went to Campobello Island.
That was before he became governor.
Well, we may get all kinds of information now because the votes are all in and your minds are made up. And now we find out which one of these 3 gentlemen is head of the Secret Service at the White House. Will the real Gerald Behn please stand up? Your hand is up, Tina.
Yes, what about Ned Beach? Under
He was the
Eisenhower.
first
Wasn't he
one.
naval aid?
He was the first naval aide. Captain Oran replaced Mr. Beach.
Okay, I get
Are we all squared away here?
Well, listen, he's got to be right. I mean, he is the real one, isn't he?
That's right.
I guess they must have stopped going to Campobello Island, right?
I believe they did after he contacted polio.
Oh, I see.
Now, number 1, would you tell us who you are and what you really do, please?
My name is George Sauer. I formerly coached football at Kansas University, United States Naval Academy, Baylor University, and now I'm an assistant coach for the New York Titans football team.
That's an impressive score you have there, sir. Number 2, your name, sir?
My name is Arthur Benwine. I'm Commissioner of Air Pollution Control for the City of New York.
And that is sort of a Secret Service, too. But a very special service.
In a way.
Well, there have been a total of 2 incorrect votes, which means a total of $500 from Anison. We thank you very much, and on your way out, gentlemen, a gift box of fine products from the makers of Anison for each one of you. Thank you so much, and good evening. Our next team...
What's My Line? Brought to you by Allstate, whose policies now include protection for your home, your family, as well as your car. You're in good hands with Allstate. And now, let's all play What's My Line?
And now, live from New York, let's meet our What's My Line panel. First, back with us from a successful engagement at the Sombrero Playhouse in Phoenix, Arizona, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now a gentleman who has just completed a television film on the adventures of that famous Belgian detective, Monsieur Hercule Poirot, Monsieur Martin Gebel.
On my left, in addition to all her other talents, one of the great game players of television, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
And on my left, another great detective, a finder of bestsellers, Random House's Bennett Cerf.
And here's our panel moderator, a man always in quest of higher knowledge. For instance, to give you an example, he spent 3 hours Friday at that Institute of Higher Learning, Toots Shores, trying to find the difference between a virgule and an ampersand. And here I hope to give you the result of his researches is Professor John Charles Daly.
What really happened is that one of our viewers was nice enough to write me a note and say he thought I could give Bennett some trouble if I asked him what a virgule was. So I called Bennett and asked him, and Bennett said, well, it's not an ampersand. You go look that up, and I'll look up a virgule. An ampersand, by the way, I knew the answers all the time, needless to say. An ampersand is the sign that they make as a diminutive for the connective and, looks like a pound sign, and a virgule, which Bennett knew the answer to about 6 hours after I asked him, is the diagonal that they put between and or if you're writing a sentence and want to say John Smith is and or, you know. You write a sentence like that, they run you out of the English class, but you'll have lots of fun.
What would you do if there was no Toots Shores, John?
Starve to death, probably. Well, it's very nice to see Monsieur Cabell with us tonight.
Thank you, John.
Again, and very nice to see all the panel looking fresh, because we've got some very interesting, I think some of them difficult occupations to identify, and some nice people who brought them to the theater. We will also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later. And now let's meet our first contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please? Paul Paterni. Is that right, sir? Mr. Paterni, where are you from?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Well, it's nice to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
A little weather down at Washington this week.
It's very nice.
You like that weather down there?
Yes.
This weekend's weather?
Yes.
You did? Well, everybody too. Mr. Paterni, may I present our panel, please? Now, would you join me over here? Do you know how we keep score, Mr. Paterni?
Yes, I do.
In that event, let's let the audience at home and the audience in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, we can tell you that Mr. Paterni is salaried and deals in a service, and I think we ought to begin the general questioning with Mr. Gable.
Thank you, John. Mr. Paterni, do you do your work in Washington?
Yes, sir.
Do you work for an organ of the government?
I do.
Is it an organ that has to do with any kind of finding out about the rest of us?
Yes.
With my clear-eyed, keen-eyed... You've got keen eyes, Mr. Paterni. That accounts for my accuracy so far. Would it be an investigative branch of the government?
Yes.
Would it be something to do with the FBI?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr.
Had a choice
Gilgallen.
of 2 again, John.
Do you have anything to do with the Treasury Department?
Yes.
Do you deal with narcotics?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Paterni, do you deal with an equally unpleasant subject, taxes?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
Does that mean we can rule out the Treasury Department, Mr. Paterni?
No.
That makes it 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Gable.
Are you a member of the Secret Service?
Yes.
That's a great name, by the way. I missed that. One doesn't hear about that so much anymore. Does your investigation have anything to do with this medium that we're functioning on now?
No.
5 down and 5 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you have anything to do with the White House?
Yes.
Are you ever in proximity to Caroline Kennedy?
Sometimes.
Other members of the royal family?
Sometimes.
Well, are you attached to the president?
No.
Not directly. Now, I will say this, Dorothy, we have to give you a no, and what we meant to convey there that in the realm of responsibility, which is exercised by Mr. Paterni, he might on occasion be in proximity to the presidential family and to the White House, but not necessarily all the time, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Paterni, are your duties more or less concentrated in the White House itself?
No.
That's 7 down and 3 to go, Miss Francis.
Would you call yourself at all a traveling man, Mr. Paterni?
Sometimes.
Would you be a Secret Service man who might be guarding different members of the president's family on trips?
Sometimes.
But I think here again,
We
I
have to
will
be more
stress
particular than that, huh?
that
Maybe he's the head
while
of the
this
whole thing.
That's how the fish was wasn't there. That's now, yes.
Is that South African, John?
Is he the president of the Secret Service?
No, what I meant to stress here is that in the general area of responsibilities to be exercised, Mr. Paterni might be in proximity to the presidential family and to the White House on occasion, but this is not the basic area of his responsibility.
Would he have anything to do with food or drink at the White House?
Food or drink at the White House?
I thought maybe he was a poison taster.
No. Ain't not a shooting over again.
Is Mr. Paterni the head of the Secret Service?
No.
No. 9 down and 1 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Mr. Paterni, are you ever attached to VIPs?
No.
Except, you see, we've already listed...
Yes, I mean, aside from...
No, this is funny, because you've left out, I think, the one area which will come to your minds with some shock.
Would it be...
What is the Secret Service, the Treasury Department? One area...
He counts the money in the White House. See that they get a certain amount to spend on rubber bands.
The Secret Service is guarding the president.
See, I guess you people haven't been doing what I've done. I've got this lovely little printing press, and I make my own money, you see, and that's why Mr. Paterni is here.
Counterfeiting?
Counterfeiting is here.
Surely he doesn't suspect Caroline Kennedy.
No.
You can understand why such a subject would be foreign to any of our natures, John.
Oh, I can.
Mr. Paterni, there's supposed to be a whole rash of 20s floating around right now, aren't there?
I heard 10s.
Yes, 10s and 20s.
10s and 20s?
Then it actually, let me get one thing clear. Mr. Paterni is the deputy chief of the Secret Service, second in command to Jim Rowley, who was recently appointed to head the Secret Service. And as deputy chief, his basic area of responsibility is counterfeiting. And last week, I just happened to remember reading it in the paper, Mr. Paterni announced that they had caught a big counterfeiting ring in California.
In the West Coast.
$20 bills, $500,000 worth of $20 bills, all of them phony. But does this have any impact on the... I know that you put a warning out, I believe, a couple of weeks ago about 20s and 10s in the East Coast area.
No, actually, that was a West Coast operation. They came as far east as Michigan. But we have an area... Incidentally, I am a Michigander.
You're a Michigander.
Wow. Yes, darling.
Mr. Paterni, I wonder if you ever heard of the conceited counterfeiter who made the perfect $20 bill, only at the last minute he spoiled everything, couldn't resist putting his own picture on it.
I wish they would all do that.
Boy, I wish I had a Virgul now. I know where that diagonal... Well, there you are. I must say, Mr. Paterni, thank you. You've been in the service, I know, for a long time, because I knew you in the old days when I was in Washington. How many years have you been
29 years.
29 years. The government is lucky to have great public servants like you.
Thank you.
And thanks for being our guest.
Thank you.
I might add, it's a very great service in the government. We don't hear as much about it, you know, as we probably should for all the fine work they do in protecting the presidential family in the White House and counterfeiting and all these very difficult areas. Nice to have Mr. Paterni with us. Now let's see what we can do with...
What is your name, please?
My name is U.E. Baughman.
What is your name, please?
My name is U.E. Baughman.
What is your name, please?
My name is U.E. Baughman.
Two of these people are imposters. Only one of them is the real U.E. Baughman, and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. And here is our host, Bud Collier.
Thank you and good evening. We're here again with our game of deliberate misrepresentation, in which four presumably smart people try to figure out which one of three challengers has sworn to tell the truth. Tell the Truth is brought to you, as you know, by Geritol, America's #1 tonic. The high-potency tonic that helps you feel stronger fast. And now let's meet our cross-examiners. What is your name, please?
My name is Polly Bergen.
My name is Ralph Bellamy.
My name is Kitty Carlisle.
And my name is Hy Gardner.
Now, these three people all claim to be U.E. Baughman. Of course, only one is the real U.E. Baughman. The other two have simply assumed that identity, and they do not have to stick to the truth. Now, panel, in front of you there is a copy of an affidavit. Will you please listen and follow along as I read it to you? I, U.E. Baughman, live in Arlington, Virginia. I have spent 30 years of my life in the employ of the federal government. I started in December of 1927 as a clerk stenographer. I am now Chief of the United States Secret Service. I swear that the above statement is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Signed, U.E. Baughman. Now on with our game. Three people, as you know, all claim to be U.E. Baughman, Chief of the United States Secret Service. Now remember, only the real U.E. Baughman is required to answer your questions truthfully. You will each question until you hear this signal. And at the end of the questioning period, you'll be asked to register your vote for the one person who, in your opinion, is the real U.E. Baughman. And we will begin this first round tonight with Ralph Bellamy. Ralph?
Well, since the real Mr. Baughman has to tell the truth, let's start with an embarrassing one. Number one, how old are you?
52.
52. Number two, how old are you?
51.
51. Number three, how old are you?
49.
49. Number one, at what age did you start to work for the government?
27.
27. Number two, how old?
22.
22. Number three, how old?
20.
20. I have to figure this out now. 27, 21.
While you're figuring, Ralph, I'll have to move along. Kitty Carlisle. Kitty?
You lost me in the mathematics, but I'd like to know from number two, what are the difference in the duties between the FBI and the Secret Service?
The Secret Service protects the President of the United States and also investigates counterfeiting violations. The FBI has a number of duties, interstate violations, kidnapping laws, and so forth.
Number three, you deal in smuggling and that sort of thing, don't you?
No, ma'am.
Oh, you don't? I mean, the Secret Service sort of protects people from being smuggled.
No, ma'am.
No, well,
don't they
Hi,
even
Gardner.
care?
said it all.
Aye.
Number one, as a member of the Secret Service, can you tell me who is Frank M. Barry?
He's one of our agents who is on leave now in another country, establishing a Secret Service.
Number two, is the U.S. Secret Service permitted to tap wires?
No, sir.
Number three, I'd like to ask this question. Could I be a Secret Service agent?
Mr. Gardner, I don't think any columnist would make a good Secret Service agent.
I didn't mean what I wrote. I meant my height.
I'm afraid you're a little too short, Mr. Gardner.
Polly Bergen.
Number two, if I made a counterfeit bill and I had it on me, could you arrest me right now?
Well, if you made it, I wouldn't arrest you right now, but I would right after the show.
He's a right guy.
Yeah, he sure is.
Number three, is there anything as far as counterfeit bills that makes it more difficult to make them than anything else? The one thing that's difficult to copy in a counterfeit bill?
Why, yes.
What?
Well, you want to know what it is?
Yes, sir, please.
Well, generally, it's the engraving, the picture, the toning, shading.
I see. Number three, is there anything difficult about the paper? Is the paper changed from time to time?
No, it's been constant for years.
The same paper?
Ralph?
Number two, when was the Secret Service instituted and by whom?
In 1865.
And that's about it, I'm afraid, panel. It's time already to vote. So without consultation, will you mark your ballots and vote for number one, number two, or number 3? May I remind you that the team of challengers will get $250 for every incorrect vote, which means, of course, with a little mathematics, that if they fool the entire panel, they may divide as much as $1,000. All right, panel, have you marked your ballots?
Yep.
No answers I'm getting. Thank you, Rob. Polly, for whom did you vote? And don't glare at me like that.
I voted for number 2.
You have a reason?
No.
Good. Ralph, your vote was for?
Number 1. He's the only one who answered my mathematical question correctly, which I finally figured out. He started at 27 and he worked for 30 years. This is 1957.
You finally caught up with it, huh? Kitty, your vote was for?
Number 1.
And why, Kitty?
He just looked like the most secret of all 3 Secret Service men.
Hi?
I voted for number 1, too, for this reason. 2 reasons. First of all, I noticed he was wearing a double-breasted suit, which means it's easy to conceal a Colt 38. And secondly, he knew that who Frank Barry was. Frank Barry used to be the chief Secret Service guard for the Truman and Roosevelt administration.
All right, sir. There we have now our votes and our reasons showing that our minds are made up. Let's see whether yours have been made up successfully and whether you beat, match, or go beyond the panel. Let's see what happens now, because we're going to find out which one of these gentlemen is the real U.E. Baughman. Will the real U.E. Baughman please stand up?
It doesn't matter. I was right.
All right, there we are. Thank you very much, sir. Now let's find out about the other 2 gentlemen. Number 1, would you tell us who you really are and what you do?
I am George D. Johnson, General Manager of the Sheraton McAlpin Hotel here in New York City.
And number 3, how about you, sir?
I'm W.F. McLaughlin, manager for Beneficial Finance Company. Come on down and see me.
You didn't hear the end of that when he said he was manager of a finance company. He says, come on down and see me. Yes, hi.
I'd like to know how Mr. Johnson knew Mr. Barry.
I was in Washington in the hotel business at the Sheraton Park in Carlton for the last 25 years.
See there? There isn't only columnists that can find these things.
I'd like to check that mathematical thing again. Didn't you say you were 22 when you started?
Well, you worry with him after the show, Ralph. We haven't got too much time now. So I have to tell everyone there were exactly 3 incorrect votes for a total of $750 from Geritol. Congratulations, gentlemen. I hope you had fun. We did. Good night and good luck to you.
Time now for everybody's favorite guessing game, What's My Line? Throughout the world, only one company produces all types of business machines and systems, Remington Rand, who now invite you to play What's My Line?
Now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the popular star of television and the theater, Miss Arlene Francis.
The next gentleman you're about to meet has the distinction of having published probably the most fascinating novel of the year, 10 Frederick Street by John O'Hara, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
This is an evening I've waited for a long time because I now have the privilege of the first time of introducing one of the smartest and nicest girls in journalism and television, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
To announce that the management at great expense has procured a special panelist for us tonight, the unique, the extraordinary, the bizarre Fred Allen.
Ladies and gentlemen, statistics prove that the average male baby only requires one babysitter to keep him company. But when that baby grows up and becomes John Daly, he requires 4 sitters. And now that the 4 sitters are here, may I present the former baby who has grown up to become our moderator, Mr. John Daly.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What's My Line. I think you're all familiar with what we're about to do. We've got some interesting occupations which we think will puzzle our panel, some nice people who brought the occupations. We'll have a famous guest challenger a bit later on, but right now I think we ought to get things rolling. It's time for the experts to meet the first challenger whose line has to be spotted. So would you come out and sign in, please? Edmund Baughman, is that right? And where are you from, sir?
Well, I've lived a long time in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Well, it's a lovely town. It's nice to have people who are that close on as neighbors come up here and give our panel a rough time. We like to give them a little bit of a running start. Would you take a small running start and let them get a closer look at you, please?
Bowman, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Bowman.
All right, sir, right over here and sit down next to me, if you will. Are you familiar with our scoring system?
Yes.
Well, if you're familiar with the scoring system, there's nothing left to do but to tell the folks at home, our friends here, exactly what your line is. We're all set, then. Our guest is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Mr. Bowman, do you work for a profit-making organization?
No.
That's what I figured. I asked it the wrong way.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Sarah.
Mr. Bowman, do you work for the United States government in any capacity?
Yes.
Is it anything to do, has it anything to do with the law?
Yes.
Is it some special division devoted to preserving the laws of the country?
Yes.
It isn't the FBI, is it?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you have anything to do with the executive branch of the government?
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with our president?
Yes.
Are you a Secret Service man?
Yes.
Wait a minute. That's a good running start, Miss Darcy, but
You mean
keep
there's
going.
more?
Sure.
Well, are you a Secret Service man engaged in protecting the president? At Gettysburg? Or the White House? Or wherever he may be?
Quiet, girl.
On the golf course.
The question was, are you engaged in... Well, I think actually we probably have to throw in the sponge, because when you get down to bedrock, Mr. Baughman is always concerned with protecting the security of the President of the United States, because he is the chief of the United States Secret Service.
Oh.
Yes, Mr. Allen.
Do you think that, I want to ask Mr. Bowman, do you think that the president is giving the country another Gettysburg Address?
Oh, no.
Well, I'm sitting in Bennett's place, John. That's the best I can do.
Mr. Baughman, could I ask a serious question? I think we'd all like to know just what is the relationship between the Secret Service and the FBI?
The Secret Service Division is a unit or agency of the Treasury Department. The FBI is in the Department of Justice. They're 2 separate agencies.
But more or less interlocked, don't they? Do somewhat the
Yes,
same
we
work?
cooperate and exchange information, but the Secret Service, we have specific duties like protection of the president, suppression of counterfeiting, forgery of government checks. And the FBI has certain duties under their jurisdiction, too.
Yes, Miss Darcy.
You're older than the FBI, aren't you?
Yes, we were organized in
Bowman doesn't look
1865.
Thank you. The Secret Service was organized then. You weren't organized then.
Well, Bennett has had more experience with the law, I think, than any of us. That's probably why.
Bennett just wants to know his rights, Mr. Bowman, so that if he's picked up by one of your men, I must say it's a very fine corps. If I can add a small bit, I covered the White House for a good many years, as I think you know, sir, and I don't know a finer body of men than the detail that you have at the White House. Jim Rowley all the way down. Thank you very much. Now, I must tell, I think the panel will get a kick out of this. Actually, we put great pressure on Mr. Baughman to come on this week, even though I think it was some inconvenience for him, because by next week, he and 9 other Americans who well deserve it will have their pictures and a story in Look magazine, and we were afraid you'd see it, because he is one of the 10 Americans who is going to receive at the first annual, I don't know whether you know about this, do you? Yes, first annual Korea Service Award that is given by the Civil Service League in Washington next Saturday night. And they called me and asked me to come down and preside at the dinner. I couldn't do it. But Mr. Baughman, next week would be so hot, but you got him anyway, very quickly. Yes, Charlie?
Then the least you can do is flip all the cards.
No question about it. We flipped all the cards, and thanks very much sir, for coming. Will you say hello to the panel? And then we'd like to meet the officials.
I'll stand up for a secret.
Well, it was very nice having so fine a civil servant with us, and compliments to the panel on a very good beginning. Mr. Allen?
I thought the Secret Service was what went on in the automat, where you don't see anybody and things are going on. It was news to me, I must say.
News
that,
to you, yes, sir. All right. Well, let's see what you can do with another challenger.